Hi, everybody. My name's Moira Scott, and it was in May, I think, that I was on this stage doing my talk for the first time. And oh my God, it's less terrifying standing up here than it was then. Anyway, I am here to introduce Shannon, and I've been supporting her, and I'm really excited to listen to her talk. I took some notes even as she was practicing it. Shannon is a minimalist-inspired and accredited professional organiser dedicated to helping individuals simplify their lives through effective decluttering strategies and a mindful approach to consumption. With a passion for fostering lasting change, she empowers clients to reframe their relationship with possessions, enabling them to create calm, clutter-free environments that enhance their mental well-being. And over the past few years, Shannon has had the privilege of sharing her insights on a variety of podcasts and was recently interviewed on Wey Valley Radio, where she engages audience with practical tips and personal stories. Shannon believes that everyone can benefit from a simpler life, allowing them to focus on what truly matters: relationships, health, and experiences, rather than being weighed down by unnecessary belongings. Shannon.
When was the last time you used your spiralizer? Remember when we all convinced ourselves that we needed one to make our lives healthier and simpler? But let's be honest, soggy courgette strands just don't hit the spot like real carb-filled spaghetti. And now where's your spiralizer? Tucked in the back of the cupboard or maybe on the charity shop shelf with others just like it. This is the story of so many of the things we own. They seem like a great idea at the time, but quickly become clutter. We get that rush of dopamine when we hit the checkout button. Retail therapy feels fantastic. But like any high, it soon fades. When an item arrives, it's often like receiving a surprise gift, something you'd even forgot you'd ordered. And then as you open the package, sometimes you're hit with that smell of cheap chemicals and plastic. Oh, doesn't quite look like the pictures. Feels a bit cheaper than expected. Oh, well, it was only £5, shove it in the back of the cupboard, maybe you could gift it to somebody at some point. And within a few days or even hours, you're scrolling again and your favourite influencer's raving about the next life-changing thing she just couldn't live without. Quick, buy now because the deal ends at midnight. And so the cycle continues. 7 years ago, I was doing exactly this, trapped in that same cycle. I was shopping because I was feeling rubbish. I was just trying to cover up all the issues that I had. But standing before you today, I'm an entirely different person. I've achieved my goal of owning my own home, and I probably own half as much as I did back then. Plus, I have a job that I genuinely love. My name is Shannon, and I am a professional organiser and minimalist. And unfortunately for me, as someone who likes to debunk the myths of minimalism, I do live in a white box. My floors, my walls, and even my furniture are white. Can you tell that I don't have any children? I do, however, own more than one white t-shirt, and I do buy new things occasionally. My journey to minimalism started unexpectedly. My partner was scrolling through Netflix trying to find something for us to watch, and we'd usually end up just watching a rerun of Friends. However, on this occasion, he put on a documentary, and the next hour and 20 minutes just flew by. The documentary depicted people fighting over TVs on Black Friday and delved into our blind consumption. It told the story of two corporate guys who'd climbed the ladder believing that all the things at the top were going to be great, were going to bring them happiness and joy, and ultimately it didn't. And then it contrasted this by showing people who had decluttered, simplified, and downsized, who were living in true alignment with their values. And they discovered minimalism. I realised that I'd been blindly going through life believing that buying more was going to bring me closer to contentment, because that's what all the advertisements say, right? buy more, be happier. And then I'd find myself wondering, why wasn't I there yet? Was it that I just hadn't got the right thing or I didn't have enough? The documentary turned on a light for me, and I realised that happiness isn't found in things. It's just a marketing strategy. A pair of shoes wasn't going to fix my depression. I started looking around my home for what I could declutter. I started getting rid of things that we hadn't used in years and created a massive pile in our living room. And after a few days, we carted it all off to the charity shop. I'm sure many people watch that documentary and think, oh, that was good, before returning to their normal lives, but it lit a fire beneath me. I then ended up spending the next 6 years learning absolutely everything I possibly could on this thing called minimalism. I learned about van lifers who travel around just living out the back of their vans. I learned about Swedish death cleaning, which isn't as morbid as it sounds. And I, quite sadly, spent a lot of my time sat in my bedroom decluttering while watching YouTube videos of random people in America decluttering theirs. There was also an extreme minimalist who lived in a tiny apartment with hardly anything and slept in a hammock, which wasn't quite for me, but it was really interesting to learn. Not long after watching that documentary, my life took a turn. I separated from my partner, / we decluttered each other. And with no money and nowhere to go, I had to move to my dad 6 hours away. And in that moment of chaos and unknown, as my life looked nothing like I thought it would at 27, I had this weird sense of freedom and gratitude when I realised that I could fit everything that I owned into my car, which meant I didn't have the associated expenses of having to hire a moving van or worry about the fact that I was going to have to unpack and try and get all of this stuff into this tiny annex. I could just get into the car with my little dog, we could travel the 6 hours and soon be ready to start our new adventure. Within a month of moving to my dad's, COVID-19 hit. And right at the start, we all thought genuinely the world might end. We were even leaving our packages outside the front door of fear COVID was going to hitch a ride on them. That first lockdown unexpectedly introduced us all to the concept of minimalism because we really prioritized our time with our friends, our families, and we went and did daily outside activities. Our health became a priority. However, by the time the third lockdown rolled around and we were bored of sourdough and Zoom quizzes, we once again turned back to shopping to fill the void of boredom. There was also a clothing trend for working from home, and we all jumped upon that as well. We collectively spent £57.6 billion on stuff. A large proportion of that still sits unused. And in the era of fast fashion, our charity shops have become inundated with a surplus of unwanted clothing. Have you ever tried to take your donations to a local charity shop only to find signs proclaiming full? This is becoming all too common, reflecting the escalating crisis of our overconsumption and throwaway culture. Did you know that on average, charity shops only sell 20% of donated clothing? A large proportion gets sold in huge bales and sent to places like Ghana. 40% ends up in waste, filling illegal dumps, clogging waterways, and ultimately polluting the ocean. This has a ripple-out effect, impacting communities and ecosystems thousands of miles away. The situation in places like Ghana is a direct result of our habits. In a world that encourages us to consume more on an unprecedented scale, our homes are filling up, our wardrobes are overflowing, and yet we're still reaching for more. As a minimalist-minded professional organiser, I help people who are completely overwhelmed to declutter their homes. But I do so much more than this. I help people to reframe their relationships with their consumption. And while it would be so much more financially beneficial for me to return month after month to re-declutter for people, that's not why I started my business. I want to help people to create lasting change, shifts in their mindset, which not only impacts their home and their mental well-being, but also is amazing for the planet. So, how do we break this mindless cycle of consumption? The first thing I'll ask you to do might surprise you. Do nothing. Yes, nothing. Resist the urge to go tearing through your house, finding things to declutter, like I did. We need to turn off the tap before we deal with the flood. Think about where stuff might be coming in from. Where are your own clutter leaks? Are your children's grandparents constantly buying them new toys? Do you find yourself going outside every day to pick up an Amazon package? It's essential to recognize these patterns because we have to stop the influx. Otherwise, we'll just end up back where we started. It's important to think about why we might be over-consuming. What deeper issues are going on for us? For me, buying was a temporary fix because I felt unhappy and lost in life. And while real therapy can be a lot more beneficial than retail therapy, it's also important that we create friction in our shopping habits. Start by unfollowing accounts on social media that tempt you late at night. Turn off one-click checkout so you've got time to go and find your card, come and sit back down, and then actually think whether you need it or not. And resist the urge to go browsing the shops on a Sunday afternoon just for something to do, because you're always going to end up coming back with bags. Adding friction allows us to create space to really think, do I need this? Why am I buying this? And what issues am I avoiding? Remember, we don't have to be in a pandemic to focus on what is truly important to us. Friends, family, experiences, and our health. Simplifying your life allows you to spend your time doing the things you love with the people that you love, instead of spending your time dealing with your wardrobe or your dumping ground of a spare room. There's no point in feeling guilty about our previous purchasing decisions or the items that we haven't used. These already exist in the world, whether they're waiting for a new owner in a charity shop or are in landfill. It's time to focus on buying less moving forward with the mindset of progress over perfection. In a world that pushes us to consume more, it takes courage to say, I have enough. And remember, in the end, life is too short for soggy courgette spaghetti and too precious to spend buried under things we don't need.